In this movie, we're going to focus on writing styles for our tablet style sheet. While time constraints prevent us from writing the entire style sheet, I want to focus on two very important regions, the menu and the sidebar content. Both will need to change in order for our site to display properly at the smaller screen size. Styling these areas should give you a good idea of how to tackle your own layout conversions. So I have the tours.htm from the 0803 folder. We'll also be working with main.css, which can be found in the same directory. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is add a link to my tablet style sheet. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy the link tag to the existing style sheet. I'm going to pass in underscore tablet.css. And again, I'm going to leave its media type for the moment, screen and projection. Now later on, we're going to do some media queries. The reason that I would do this is because the order that these are coming in means that the tablet style sheet will, for the moment, overwrite the main styles when they conflict. That means that I that I know that needs to be overwritten. Maybe it's for positioning purposes or just stylistic purposes, or maybe I need to change its size. I'm actually going to copy and paste the entire selector here instead of just the line or two that I need. Now that may seem confusing to you at first, but the thing is when I'm overwriting styles, if I don't copy and paste the whole selector here, I often forget that I have 20 pixels of margin on it, and I need to overwrite that 20 pixels of margin. So there have been plenty of times where I'll go somewhere and start messing around with the layout, and I'm like, oh, I just forgot that I had that padding applied to the other style sheet. So that's a really quick and easy way to know whether or not you need to overwrite something. All right, now, as I mentioned, we're going to focus on those two areas, the main navigation and the sidebar. I'm going to scroll down to about line 55. And here we have a selector for our main nav. Now that's going to change in a very, very big way. It's going to go from this vertical menu on the left side of the screen to a horizontal menu in the upper right-hand corner. So that's going to require a lot of change. I'm going to leave a left float, believe it or not, on that. But for width, I'm going to change the width to 473 pixels. Essentially, it's going to appear to the right of where the header is positioned. So I've calculated how much available space I have in that area. I'm also going to change its height. we're seeing. So I'm going to write a brand new selector just below my existing one, the one we were just working on. I'm going to type in pound wrapper, space pound main nav, space UL, pound base nav. Remember, that's the menu that we're working with right now, LI space A. Now, why in the world did I write such a long selector? Well, specificity. I want to make sure, and that's why I added the wrapper to this, that this is going to overwrite any of those existing class selectors on that link. Let me explain. The background graphics that you're seeing are unique to every single link. Every link has a class that identifies it, and then that class is then used to write a selector that goes and grabs the proper background image. I need to overwrite that. I really don't feel like doing or rewriting, 5 or 6 of these selectors. So I'm going to do a very, very specific selector with a higher degree of specificity than the class selectors that the other style sheet is using. And I'm just going to very easily say background equals none. So that's a much more efficient way of doing that, using specificity rather than worrying about rewriting that selector 6 or 7 times. All right, I've got a couple more rules that I need to finish here, and then we'll be done with our navigation. This UL base nav LI a current and current hover, that's going to indicate the current page that we're on, and it's going to look a little bit different than the rest of our navigation. So what we want to do for that, we're going to leave border none. I'm going to change the color of this, so I'm going to give it a color. The color is going to be pound 952. And I'm just going to delete the background position because that doesn't matter. We don't have backgrounds on it anymore. I'm going to go down to the hover. I'll get rid of the background position there as well. And there I want to do a color, and I'm going to do pound CB 7D 20. All right, let's save that. We're going to test this in our browser. So in previewing this, I don't mind that menu sticking out like that. It looks kind of cool. We could even put a little badge right here if we wanted to. That would be nice. But the problem is that is not where I want it. So sometimes there's a little trial and error here. Obviously, I got the left margin on that wrong. So I'm going to close this, go back into my main nav selector, and indeed, I think I even called out 227 pixels, but I wrote it as 272. So let's change that back to 227 and test it again. And there we go. Now we can see how effective it was that we're linking to these tablet styles rather than having to keep resizing the browser. So now our horizontal menu looks the way we want it to. We don't have any of the images showing up, and it's working perfectly. The very last thing we have to do is we have to fix these guys. And that's actually an easier fix than you think. I'm going to scroll down. We can see that we are getting these guys appearing side by side. Now, if I wanted to, I could increase their margins to reduce the amount of gutter between that. That's really up to me. I can kind of do that however I want. I know that took a little while, but actually, it's only 2 elements that we were modifying. So we modified 2 of those regions in our layout that needed to change based on screen size. This should give you a pretty good idea as to how you might approach modifying an entire layout. Every project is different, and your own layouts will have their own needs and considerations. Just remember to be really, really careful when overwriting previous styles. It's really easy to miss something or to overwrite an important style by mistake. So now that we've written some styles for target screen sizes, we're going to take a look at how we would take our finished style sheets and deploy them through the use of media queries in our next movie.